and now she's blazing away.
Oh yeah.
Hope for everybody. Yeah.
All right, so we'll get moving here. Thank you everyone for joining. I do expect a few more to join as we go, but we'll get started anyway. So my name is Ryan Duff. I am the program manager with the Nova Scotia Innovation Hub, and work closely with the Career and Sustainability Program. Also with us today are Tristan Mabey and Kia J. Bonner from Ignite. This will be your kind of hosts, so to speak, for the day. Thank you very much to David and Fraser from Sustainable Blue. They will be they'll be our guinea pigs for the day. Just a quick note that the session is being recorded. And I'm just going to share my screen here just to run through a quick agenda. Oh, Tristan, can you allow me to share my screen? Sorry about that. All right, and I have entirely too many things open. Okay, so quickly, I'm just going to give a quick introduction to the Careers Sustainability Program for those that aren't familiar with it already. I'll then pass it over to David and Fraser to give us a rundown of Sustainable Blue and what all the great stuff that they're up to over there. And then the bulk of our time here, we have the hour, we'll devote to a Q&A and discussion. So, you know, by all means, encourage everyone on the line to ask questions and comments, and that's what we're here for. This is not just a presentation, this is a roundtable discussion. So, you know, we very much encourage you to participate. So first, Careers and Sustainability was created as a partnership between the Nova Scotia Innovation Hub and Ignite. And the focus of the program is to bridge the gap and connect people that are interested in working in the bioeconomy, that are looking for jobs, with growing bioeconomy companies, because there's lots of people that are interested in this space that are looking for jobs, and then there's a large number of companies that work in the bioeconomy that have human resource needs, and those needs are growing more and more. And so this program is intended to bridge that gap and connect the two. So the program is built around first an awareness campaign. And so for that, we've created some social media accounts on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. We also have a website that you can see at the bottom there, careersustainability.ca. If you're here, you've likely encountered one or more of those. And for that, we've created some feature videos, Sustainable Blue included, where you can go and it showcases their operations, answer some questions about the types of careers that are available at those companies. So I think there's 5 or 6 up there now, and hopefully some more to come. So definitely encourage you to check that out. From there, we move to what we call experiential learning, which this event today is part of. And so that's intended to bring people closer into the bioeconomy. So where the awareness campaign is really one-way communication, us putting things out there. This is intended to bring people that are interested in closer and directly engage with leaders in the bioeconomy, such as Sustainable Blue with David and Fraser. And give you the chance to ask questions and really figure out if this is something for you. From there, the program has a number of supports available for bioeconomy employers to bring on employees. And so there's wage subsidies available for an internship stream, which is for up to 4 months, as well as a career stream, which is 5 to 7 months. And we also have funding available for folks that, check a lot of the boxes and are in a good spot, but maybe just require a little bit of upskilling, check one more box, get a short-term training program or something like that. There is funding available there for that as well. So I'm going to pause there. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to pass over to David and Fraser. And I know I've threw a lot out there at once. So later on, if people have questions about the program specifically, we can tackle that later. But for now, I'll pass over Sustainable Blue. Oh, and just one last thing, if everyone maybe just turn off your cameras, I see many have already, but we'll turn off our cameras while David and Fraser are chatting, and then we can turn them back on later for the discussion portion. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Ryan. And Fraser, if you don't mind, I'll jump in and then feel free to
Go for it.
jump in when you're ready. Yeah, my name is David Roberts. I'm the Project Development Director here at Sustainable Blue. I've had that title for probably 2 or 3 years, and I've had almost lots of other titles since we started the farm back in around 2007 when we started initial operations, in 2008 actually growing some fish. So let me just give you a bit of background of who we are, what we do, what our goal is here in Nova Scotia. We're land-based, currently a land-based salmon farm. And when I say that, we're doing marine grow out, which is unique in land-based. There were previously, a lot of fish hatcheries that we know about on land, but they're always freshwater. And we have a freshwater hatchery here as well for salmon production, but we also have a saltwater grow facility. And this technology has emigrated from the UK. The founder of the company and the founder of the technology is Dr. Jeremy Lee, and he is based in the UK, and in his previous career was working with designing and building large public aquaria for urban centers around the world. Out of that spawned some technology which was very applicable to land-based recirculation aquaculture at the time. And so he landed in Canada with it and wanted to do it in Nova Scotia and their area. And the technology, which is proprietary to us, allows us to operate at a level where we can collect and remediate all of our waste. So we are a land-based marine farm with zero discharge to the local aquatic environment. And that puts us in a unique class. We're the only one that we know of in the world that's able to do that presently. And so we started out originally thinking that our biggest competitive advantage in the marketplace would be the fact that we could grow a non-indigenous species in Canada, such as European sea bass or sea bream or some other kind of high value exotic species here in Canada. And so that's what we set out to do. Well, I back up just one bit. We set out to do black cod originally, and the only black cod juveniles available in the world at the time were coming out of a hatchery in British Columbia. And so we built our first little simple building farm to prove the technology, and then bring in some black cod juveniles from the West Coast, and also known as sablefish. And there was a management change by the time we finished building our building, and they basically internalized all their production and said we couldn't have any anymore. So we had a farm ready to go, but no fish to put in it. So we refocused on bringing in European sea bass juveniles from France. And as we brought those in and started growing them, and everything was going pretty good, we went to the marketplace. And over the next couple of years, everybody we were selling European sea bass to, mostly high-end food service and restaurant trade, were telling us, and asking us, this is great, but can you do salmon for us, right? And we said, well, why would you want us to do salmon? Everybody's doing salmon. These are European sea bass, And the salmon is just so predominant in everybody's seafood economy that what they were after was a salmon that was grown in our particular farm with our methods, that wasn't putting out anything to the environment, very green in nature, and we weren't using any therapeutics or antibiotics and so on and so forth. And so they wanted that particular story to go with the fish, and salmon was the fish they wanted. And so our biggest competitive advantage was, in fact, the way which we were growing the fish, not the fish itself at the time. So we geared up and started doing salmon. And we've been on this site for about 14, 15 years and doing salmon for about 7 or 8 of that now. And so all along, we were improving our technology, building another iteration of it to make it more efficient, more cheaply to build, and so forth and so on, collecting investors and expansion and so forth. And so presently, we're just commissioning the next month our latest expansion, our latest flagship building on this particular site here in Nova Scotia. And I can show you some pictures of where we've been and where we are now. And that'll bring us up to a combined total of 1,000 metric tons of production per year, which for us is a good place to be. It's an economically viable place to be, but we do have plans to go larger than that. And 1,000 tons of production is a fairly big farm. When I first started here, everybody, that's what they talked about was 1,000 tons here, 1,000 tons there. Now people talk about 5,000 tons as the minimum, 10,000 tons, and all talking pretty much about salmon. The global market in North America for salmon is around 400,000 metric tons, so still a ways to go. But of that, 95% of it is primarily from net pen industry, and there's a real groundswell now. Even the larger companies are looking with earnest into getting into land-based systems. And so we're getting a number of inquiries around our technology and what we do, and we are set up to license it out and build farms for others. So that's part and parcel of our economic model. But basically, you know, we've had our head down for a number of years just trying to get to the point where our technology is proven, which it is economically affordable next to a net pen operation, and the fact that we can, you know, claim these environmental benefits. Are we all the way there? No, not by any means. There are still areas where we're, and probably will always be, striving to improve on the environmental footprint that we're doing, such as energy supply and energy use, ingredients in the feed and so forth, what our waste products are used for at the end of the day. And this is the role that I've taken on recently, is to design and develop R&D or initiatives around these particular areas that we're trying to further improve our operations with respect to our environmental footprint going forward. Along this way, of course, as we expand, we get more and more staff that are coming in, and so we have to restructure ourselves the way we do things, from a mom and pop operation up to a more corporate structure and so forth. And Fraser has had also several hats here in the short time he's been here. But I don't know, maybe Fraser, I'll just stop there because I know there's going to be a lot of questions coming along. I don't want to talk too much about things that people are interested in, but you can tell us, tell the group maybe your experiences since you've been here and the role you're doing now.
Yeah, absolutely. So I joined the company in 2019, May, and started off as a tech, and that's kind of the entry position, aquaculture technician. Had a short stint as a aquaculture technician, and then went on to be a building supervisor for one of our farms. And then after doing that for probably, I don't know, 6 months, I ended up getting the production manager title, and that's kind of the role that I still do with the company. So I handle everything from the short to long-term planning, harvest forecasting, all that sort of thing. So my background really didn't lend itself to aquaculture necessarily. I came from a molecular genetics and bacteria background, but I found myself getting a job here and I love it. So this is where I am.
Good. I wonder if I try this, but I'll share my screen just so you sort of our starting point and where we're at now. Everybody see that?
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah. So this was our little Quonset hut. This was back around 2008, I think 2009 probably, when we started out. And this is not the desirable shape of an land-based aquaculture building, because they're inside, there are tanks there, of course, in the middle. But, you know, you're kind of closed in, and it's difficult to wield a 10-foot net in there and so forth. But it was a cheap building, so we went for it. And just to demonstrate the technology, you can see in the background, there's the Avon River that comes in off the Bay of Fundy. It's an estuary river. It's on tidal, and that's high tide, and it goes right down, you know, 12, 15 meters down to next to nothing. And so for bringing in new water, for filling up our tanks, and for water that we would lose throughout the year, we draw it from that source. Now, many of you may know that water looks like chocolate milk because it's very highly silted and so forth. A lot of mud in that river. So, but basically, we have means to remove all that, and we have a process that basically eliminates anything living in that water before it even enters our farm, so that no pathogens, no sea lice, no harmful bacteria will be coming in to the farm as a buffer. Once it's in our farm, it's free of those things. There are really few sources where any infections can come in. So it allows us we don't have to use antibiotics or sea lice treatments or anything like that. So if we leapfrog ahead 14 years or so, this one up, yeah. So that Quonset hut is this little building over here now, right? And you can see we basically expand. This looks a bit like a mining operation in that there's a lot of construction going on, but recently it's all been greened up, so it looks a lot better in this part. So these are all production buildings. There was a hatchery, and then version 2 of the equipment. So this whole structure here under construction, this is our latest build, which brings us up to the 1,000 tons. And these 2 buildings at the back with the green and white striped tent covered building and this concrete building, this is entirely dedicated to wastewater remediation. So all of the waste from all of these buildings are connected via pipework to these buildings here, and all the waste is collected, remediated. Solids are solidified, and then water is back to the farm to do its various purposes. Very, you know, industrial kind of buildings that don't really look like much on a single story. Inside, of course, you know, you see things like this where we have tanks, concrete tanks, mezzanines, and walkways, and feeders, and so forth. And these tanks on average are about 10 feet deep. Another picture of that. It's going to work, but you can see pools of fish here in the tanks, basically. Lots of salmon. Stocking densities probably as high as 70 or 80 kilos. And then recently we commissioned a new building, which is what we call our harvest purge building. All the fish from the production buildings will end up in one of these 3 tanks, probably a week to 10 days ahead of when they're harvested. This allows us to get fish ready for harvest. Any off flavors that they may have are purged out. But then again, all of this is a uniquely designed research system as well. So our whole goal is that this farm is not dependent on an outside source for significant volumes of new water, so that it can be translocated from its current position to another location in Canada, US, or anywhere in the world where you just have a source of power and some source of water, but it doesn't have to be salt. And you know, so you could put this, you know, in outside Toronto or outside other urban centers, and thereby you're reducing the ability to move fish flying around the world, therefore having a lower carbon footprint. Anyways, I'm gonna stop sharing that, get back into the spring things, gives you an idea. We can go back and look at those or more if you need. I'm might stop there and just see if there's any questions. I don't want to drone on too long.
That was great, David, Fraser. Thank you. Yeah, open it up to the floor. Any questions?
Wide open. One question we often get from people. Oh, go ahead, Anna. Did you want to speak?
I was going to ask, are you planning to discuss the employment opportunities and what the training might be and things like that?
Sure, I can talk about that right now, actually. So we currently have a complement of, most of our staff, a couple managers, around 25 people, 24, 25 people. And so over the next years, we bring on a new building, we'll probably be hiring probably another 2 to 4 people, depending on how that all works out. As you get larger, you kind of think you know how many people you need, but when you get into the swing of things, sometimes we often need more than that. As far as the type of person that we would hire, that the background and so forth we need here, traditionally we used to get questions, oh, you must have a biology or a science background to work there, and that can be an advantage in understanding some of the concepts of how we do things here. But some of our key employees that are in top level positions didn't have any science background at all, right? So it's not a prerequisite to even applying here. I mentioned that, well, I didn't mention to everybody here, but we have, when you come in, there'll be an interview period, of course, and then you're selected. And we have a 3-month probation period for everybody that comes into the farm. Over that 3 months, we have a standard, formalized syllabus of training that involves classroom training and in situ on the farm training. And that's, everybody takes it and they're required to pass at the end. And it's not really a big test, but we kind of want to know that everybody is getting to the point, and we actually sign off from the instructor and from the student that we agree that we've all got the knowledge base that we need now to be effective on one level. Concurrently, people who come in here are probably taking 8 to 10 different safety training courses outside, so that they are everything is safe for people to work here, and that they're trained in procedures and protocols. And often people will start in a technical as a technician and work alongside someone more senior who may be a supervisor or a building supervisor. And it'll take probably another 3 to 6 months for them to learn the ropes to the point that they can do all of the jobs on their own. Certainly after 2 or 3 months, you can do some of the easier ones on their own. And then as you move through, and I'll mention too that we're set up this way to have at least 2 people here 24 hours a day. So there's 2 people on every night of the year that stay overnight. And not the same 2 people. But not now, when I digress, but when it was just Kirk Havercroft, our CEO, and myself here, we were the 2 people. But anyways, yeah, and the reason for that is, alarms and things can go on throughout the night when people have gone home. And so we want to ensure that we're protected against that. One of those persons that will be on overnight is what we call our primary person. They're responsible really for the farm during the night hours. And if everything goes well, they get to watch on Netflix and go to bed at 10 o'clock like everybody else. But if there's an alarm, then at 2 in the morning, they're the ones that's going to get up. The second person is there in case, there's a lightning storm and the power goes out and all the alarms are going off. At least there's 2 people, because we're spread out. It's just often that picture. There's a lot of area to cover and buildings to look at. So we need at least 2 people to be in that. If there's nothing happening of that nature, the primary or the secondary person really just is here, just doing whatever they like. And as we move forward, we're conscious that if you built this farm, 1,000-ton farm, it wouldn't look like the way we built it right now, because you wouldn't have multiple buildings all spread out. You'd be in one building and so forth. And this would be the intent going forward for larger farms that we may build here in Nova Scotia. And then we also have, everything is alarmed, remotely monitored and so forth. So we do have the ability to monitor from outside of the site. But then again, the job of people who are on overnight is so that within half hour to 45 minutes, other people can be called in if need be. But their job is to keep the farm ticking along through the night till the next morning. But yeah, so we're expanding our, not only just our production, but then our harvesting area, which I showed you there. Right now, takes 4 or 5 people to run through the harvesting. We may have to have another couple for that. We're moving fish around more often as we expand. So I say 2 to 4 people, and that's really our vision for just the basic operations. It may be larger than that, certainly going ahead. And then we do have opportunities, not immediately, but we do have plans for larger expansions as well.
Okay, thank you. And feel free, as you're asking questions, or if folks want to turn their cameras and microphones on now. As I mentioned, this part is meant to be more of a discussion. So feel free. No pressure if you don't want to, but you're welcome to. Question from the chat. So you talked about treating the seawater as it comes in. So this is from Charlene. Charlene, do you just want me to read this, or do you want to go ahead and ask yourself?
Sure, I can go ahead and ask myself. So how are you treating the water? I'm assuming you're filtering to remove the silt, but how are you killing the bugs and the biofouling coming in?
So the process involves use of ozonation, right? And so basically we're in the seawater, there's bromide, and then we're converting that through ozonation, through oxidation, into bromous acid, which is it's bromine, and that's been documented and peer reviewed at a certain level to kill off organics and organic life. At that point, you really couldn't use that water for your fish either, because it would start attacking the organics of the fish. So we pass it through other filtration mechanisms to sequester out the bromine, bring it back into basically a clean, clear, silt-free, bio-free at that point. And now there's natural bacteria, of course, in our system, so it doesn't stay that way very long. But they're not pathogenic generally, you know. Yeah.
And I also asked the question about so how often do you change the seawater in the tanks, and where does your old water go?
Yeah. So I haven't worked out kind of the rate, but all the water that we lose from the farm would be attributable to either evaporation. The fish, as they grow, of course, are putting on weight with some of that water, and our wastes that are removed, the solids, we try and get them, as consolidated as we can. We have a centrifuge that we're trying to spin out the water and so forth. So some of the actual water that be leaving the farm would probably go with the waste. So we're shooting for, we're probably about 10 to 15% solids. We're trying to get to 30% solids or higher in the waste that would leave the farm, solids. No water goes back to the ocean or any aquatic environment. It's really only bound up in solids and slurry that would leave at that point, or evaporation, or in the fish.
Yeah, thanks.
You're welcome.
Okay, any other questions?
Can I get a follow-up?
Absolutely.
I'm interested in your training. So if I've got it right, you expect, or you invite people to come and work for Sustainable Blue with high school diplomas and maybe university. And then, as I understand it, you have your own intensive training program in aquaculture. And then for safety training, you go outside. I understand you're going to be licensing the technology in the future. Will you be licensing your basic training program?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, certainly parts of it, I think, could be licensed, and it would depend on like we would, our licensing for other farms would include our training, of course, for those farms. If we were going to take the syllabus itself, because there are core sections in the training that are focused on the proprietary technology. So we wouldn't be able to let that freely out into the marketplace. But certainly there's a lot of aspects of the training syllabus that could be applied to the other training programs in aquaculture. And I think we open to that for sure, because more the merrier, really. You know, we're trying to advance. We're not here to have global domination of aquaculture, or even salmon culture. Our goal is really to produce or demonstrate that we can produce the most planet-friendly aquaculture form, so that we can provide a model by which we can grow more fish, more protein, if it is, you know, whether it's salmon, whether it's another species, and so forth. Going forward, I guess, because environmentally sound means growing protein, what we need as we get more and more people on this planet. You look at the, you know, arable land area, for example, that's required to produce a unit of protein for beef or chicken or pork or milk or eggs. You know, it's around 140 square meters for a kilo of beef, basically, and it goes down all the way to milk and eggs, maybe 30 or 40. When you do the equivalent amounts for a kilo of edible salmon protein, it's less than 0.4, right? So it's, from an arable land point of view, usage, or just land square footage footprint, it's very efficient. It's also very efficient when it comes to units of protein in and units of water in compared to protein coming out, which is another whole topic about where are we going to get all this protein or feed to feed our fish, aquaculture fish, going forward, if aquaculture is going to be an efficient means of growing protein. So we're looking at alternative non-marine sources of protein in our salmon diets right now.
I had a question. What would you describe the culture at Sustainable Blue like?
Okay, I have my idea, but I'm going to ask Fraser what he thinks the culture of Sustainable Blue is like.
Very, very progressive, I think. I think it has to be. I think one of the key components on the farm are those like cliche things you'd identify on your CV, right? Like the team building and the communication and all those things are so important to the culture of Sustainable Blue.
Yeah, I mean, the work here, and Fraser can speak to it firsthand, is that, you know, it's hard work, right? It can be, you know, like a long day or a hardship, but it's very rewarding. And that there's everybody who works here and last working here has some affinity and care for the actual fish. You know, they're not just doing it for the paycheck. They care about the growing food for somebody, and they care about the husbandry, and so things like our primary goal is to ensure that all of our fish are in their optimum environment, and we strive to have happy fish, because if the fish are happy, content, not being stressed, their immune system is stronger. They can fight off any opportunistic bacteria. Plus, they reward you with good growth because they're converting food efficiently and growing well, and all these things, you know, end up in the right place. So we want the team that works here is dialed into, you know, at the very minute level, the systems and the fish and how they're responding, and everybody is welcome. I know it's not official, but it just happens that they're all feeding back to their supervisors and managers of ways to make things better, or this is not working, and so forth and so on. And it really has to be that way as a team, because you know, there's not a lot of room for attitudes or other things. We're all in it together kind of deal. And that's, it's a little harder to maintain that as we get larger. But currently, it seems to still be working. Yeah.
I think everybody is very invested in the project. That's something you can say for everybody that works here.
Yeah. I mean, over the last 15 years, even though we've been growing and selling fish, we're really developing commercialization of the technology and so every time we open a new building, it's slightly different than the last one, and it's got the same components, but now it operates a bit different or a different scale. So people are always retraining and relearning as well. So there's never a dull day here. I mean, there's always something happening, right?
I have another question,
Sure.
still on the topic of waste.
Yes.
So your 15% solids that you're taking out, where did they go? Did they go in the landfill? Did they go in the municipal sewer? Do you have a field pit?
Yeah.
Where did they end up?
Yeah, great question. And we're evolving that as well. Originally, because where we're located in Centre Burlington, just really literally across the street, there's an organic farmer. And so he used to come once or twice a year and we'd pump out our sump and he would put it on his fields. And it does make great fertilizer. So, but as we get larger, and this is an issue really for provinces who are looking to expand their aquaculture land-based sector too, because as you start getting into the tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of tons of production of fish on land, you're going to have a lot of waste product to contend with, and that has to be thought of and developed concurrently. Otherwise, you're going to have the same problem as you have in the ocean. So what we're doing now, presently our waste, today they're trucked about 20 minutes to Gore, where there's an anaerobic digester at the dairy farm in Gore, and they have built this purposely, and it takes our organics and converts it into methane, which produces electricity and back to the Nova Scotia power grid. So that's what's happening to our waste now, but we think there's even more beneficial uses, because in my background, we're still converting that, even though it's going back to energy, it's still methane is being burnt, right? So we still get some emissions from that. So we have another R&D program looking at our waste combined with two other companies, which one is Overland Agri-Science, which grows black soldier fly larvae, and they have a manure from that as well, fly waste. And then there's a company called Sustain Tech, which is a municipal waste remediation technology, but they have a recovered woody waste from cardboard and so forth. And we're combining these products into, initially we thought maybe we'll compost it or see if we can get, but we're just mixing it right now. And it's going in as a soil amendment / fertilizer. And we see that a lot of demand from a number of companies that are making statements that they're going to get off inorganic fertilizers in the future, but don't have real strong plans of how they're going to do that. So, and the loss of nutrients from our soil, organic matter is dropping as well. So we just thought maybe this will have a beneficial impact. We've done some initial trials, and just at the community college in the valley, and I can tell you, based on that, it's really encouraging, because this mixture of waste, it increased water retention, it stabilized pH, and they grew lettuce on non-fertilized soil and our fertilized soil. And on our mixture, the lettuce grew 32 times faster. So we're going to do some follow-up studies, of course, to see how it does against inorganic fertilizers and so forth and so on. But I think that would be, a way to incorporate that back into the food chain, basically, which would be a better use for it.
That's great. Thanks.
David, because it's this is careers of sustainability, just want to kind of steer us towards the career side of things. So could you maybe talk about some of the challenges you've had in accessing, human resources and talent to as you grew?
Yeah, Sure. I mean, we've had a couple of, published calls for employment here over the years, and initially we'd get, 4 or 5 people, but you get a whole range of applications. Majority of them come from outside of Canada, which is not really what we're after, because it's a lot more complicated to bring people in from outside Canada to work here. But part of it has to do with our location, in that we're about an hour's drive from Wolfville or from Halifax, kind of thing. We are a bit remote, but people can relocate or commute. I mean, I live in Halifax, so I've been commuting here. That's my lifestyle. So recently, though, we've had better luck, or when we're putting out, we might get 50 applications, of which only 3 to 5 are considered people we want to bring in that position. But recently, it's been a higher ratio, and through this program in particular, we had really good luck. Right, we hired 3 people, actually 5 in total, and so far they've all worked out pretty well. But so it's trying to get people that want to or can commute, getting qualified people. Now, if we look ahead, we've already considered this to a larger facility. It most likely won't be on this particular site, but that's part of the siting criteria, is we need to be somewhere where we can access a labor pool. It'll probably need that page probably 60 to 70 employees for that facility, right? But generally, the people that we do get, and we've had a couple of turnovers. People leave for a variety of reasons. Either they are moving for other reasons, or they go get married and they have to move, or various things. So we've trained probably just as many people as we hired right now, right? So, yeah. But it's a concern for us. First getting the numbers, and then getting qualified people, right?
Yeah, that's a challenge, and that's pretty common across the board.
Yeah, we're also trying our best, and Fraser can tell us as well, but we're trying to keep ahead of the pay curve, so we remunerate people fairly, and also provide on-site things that they may need. If they need good accommodations, or we've had people that were moving from another province or another area, and they coming here and had to look for a place to live, and while they were looking for a month, they were able to stay on site. We have a 5-bedroom house here that they could stay into as well, right? So yep. But we're pretty likable guys, to be honest. We do what it needs, because it's important.
Yeah, you're okay.
It takes a lot of effort and time to recruit people and train them, and so
Yeah.
we like to hang on to them after they're here. Yeah.
I think this latest round of hiring, we had really good luck, actually. I think I probably went through something like 30 resumes, and we ended up hiring 5 people. I mean, that's a pretty good ratio.
Mm-hmm. Good. Okay, we've got about 15 minutes left, so if you've got questions, get them in.
Yeah, I'll actually jump in kind of on top of what you just answered. What advice would you give to someone who's interested in applying to Sustainable Blue?
Yeah, if people are interested in applying, just apply. Because we don't throw away, even if we aren't hiring that week or month, whatever, we'll keep people's interest around right until the point that we are. And if they want to come out, often what we do too, I should mention, if we've got a short list of people that we're going to hire, then we invite them to come out for a full day to suit up and just work alongside someone under supervision for a day. They don't have to do a lot of effort, but just to see what we do here firsthand. And then at the end of it, we get their impression. They may say, oh, this isn't not at all what I thought it was, not for me, right? That's fair. But also we'll get the impressions from our own supervisor who's been with them the whole day, just to see, are they a good fit for the group? You know, there's a lot of social interaction that needs to take place here too. You know, were they inquisitive, so on. So just to see that it's going to be, you know, no red flags off the bat. And if that's all good on both sides, then you know, usually come back for a second interview, and off we go. Yeah. Sorry, Kia, I think I got myself derailed there.
No, that's great.
Okay.
That's interesting to know that you have that, on-site portion
Yeah,
of the interview process.
That evolved out of us thinking we were good assessors of what would be the best employee, and we really aren't. You know, we're just we would hire people and think this is the best one, and then 3 or 4 months into it, not quite what we thought we were getting. So we want to be sure, and sometimes we've hired people that, you know, were a favor to somebody who said, oh, can you just give someone an interview? And we would give them that interview and think, gee whiz, you know, not really sure this is going to work out. A year or two later, they're superstars, right? So we can't second guess it, right? I think the interview process just really gets you to the point of giving them a try, right? So because after that, it's either going to work great or not so great or whatever. And so we've given up that we can really predict any of that. So we like to have as much, you know, feedback and real life experience with people, because people often surprise you in the end. So it's great.
I think one thing we really like to do now, like during the first part of the interview process, is actually maybe only do a 10 or 15 minute kind of short formal interview, and and then bring them out on the farm and almost do a tour / get them talking, try to get to know the person. I think that's a lot more informative than just kind of berating them with questions in a room.
Yeah.
Not everybody tests well in that environment, right? So, you know, we don't want to just limit it just to that, and we've proved to ourselves that that's not maybe the best measure. So, yeah.
As you know, Dave and Fraser, the Careers to Sustainability program, as there's positions posted, the intake process includes a software called Talent Sorter that's really a behavioral assessment, and so it kind of asks some questions to get at, you know, is this person well suited to this type of position, as opposed to just an interview. And I mean, it's just one tool in the toolbox, but you know, interviews are notoriously poor. That's pretty much across the board as a way to assess how someone's going to be in a certain situation. Sometimes maybe they just freeze up in an interview answering questions in front of 3 people across the desk, but they'd be great in the job. And otherwise, some people are just great talkers, but get them in the job and not so much.
Sure. Feel free. Any questions at all?
Maybe quickly, David and Fraser, just maybe talk about, I think I saw, Audrey Joe's here. Just talk about, you know, some of the initiatives you've had or partnerships you've had with, you know, local training centers or educational institutions to try and, you know, access the skills that you need.
Yeah, so not a lot, but a number of applicants that we would get may have come through the aquaculture diploma or program at the agricultural college that Delta up there. And so I know the number of the professors there just through previous experience, and so we'll often give them a call as well and just say, you know, you had this student for 4 years. They've applied here. What's your candidate assessment of, you know, because they often, you know, whether you get your homework in on time or not, kind of thing, right? So just, you know, speaks to a little bit of their work ethic or aptitudes. there aren't a lot of dedicated aquaculture programs
Mhm.
here per se. But as I said, sometimes and, people come in with an aquaculture background, and because we do things, I would say, similar but different than most land-based, even aquaculture systems. As long as they're willing to lean on that when they need to, but not use that as their Bible kind of thing, because sometimes people think they'll know and they'll want to upright just tell us, oh yeah, I know about that, right? And well, this isn't quite as what you were taught. This is a little different, right? So someone who's willing to learn while they're here has a bit of a humble attitude towards that, really does a lot better than people that come in with preconceived or background training, right? So.
Mhm.
We'd like to see, a dedicated RAS training center, right?
Yeah.
or even be that. I mean, we talked about for a number of years we're looking at licensing our technology, and looks like we're getting close with another farm in another province here, and so either in Canada or even internationally, we would be able to be set up to bring people here to train for a facility that we'd be designing for another client. And so if we got more of that, of course, we could probably branch into a formalized training program. Right?
Definitely being humble is critical, Dave. That's an important asset. Just wondering if there's any specific skills that would be beneficial for potential new employees to have.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we like to see candidates that have an attention to detail, because there's a lot of nuances, observational skills, I guess, is one thing that helps people, in that they are observing the fish all the time or a system all the time, and they'll notice, oh, that these fish aren't eating as strongly as they were yesterday. I wonder if something's going on, or something like that. And that's just an intrinsic aptitude that some people have more than others. For all of our equipment that we operate, systems, we dedicate any number of standard operating procedures. So it's really a how-to operate that equipment, but people need to, not only just be observant, but to a bit of problem solving on the, critical thinking, I guess, is another way to put that they're able to do that. And, we give opportunities for anyone to advance through the ranks in the system. If they start out as a technician, that's fine. If they want to remain as a technician, that's absolutely fine too. But if they don't want to be a supervisor and then be a building supervisor and a manager, our goal is to provide those opportunities through expansion, but also the training and aptitude. And so we've had people who've come in and taken probably 6. We want them to be trained up in 3 months. But one candidate came in, started being trained. It wasn't their background. It wasn't their history. So all these concepts were brand new to them. But we saw the progress, and it probably took 8 months before they were through that initial training. But we stuck with it, and now they're probably going to be the manager of our latest building, right? Because they just progressed once they got a hold of it. It took off, right? So we're willing to work with people as long as they're progressing, I guess, and want to have the will to learn and to take things on board. So although it's really an attitude thing, I would think, come down to at the end that I haven't seen anybody with a good attitude that's not still here. So if people aren't willing to learn, want to do it on their own, not be a team player, generally, it won't last a long time here, because it just doesn't fit with us.
Yeah, I think being able to manipulate information, like you said, Dave, critical thinking, it's so key here.
Yeah, the systems, they're fairly sophisticated. There's a lot of moving parts. And our jobs basically revolve around, there's fish husbandry, of course, but we have also all this system to make sure that it's optimized and running 24 hours a day so the fish are content and doing their thing. And so not everybody has to do everything, but on your particular job, you know, you're responsible for this particular item. And so if there's an issue, we want people to be aware of it and bring it up right away so we can address it, right?